So welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being with us for this 1 hour webinar, bringing the inside out understanding to communities. So it's I think this might be the first time that I've done a webinar with 1, 2, 3, 4 speakers, apart from my Viva stuff, obviously. But so I'm delighted to welcome Jack and Diane and Lilliana, and our special guest, Janet Rhynie, who's joined us at the last minute. We are recording this, so you will get the recording hopefully tomorrow at the latest. And this is a preview, it's taster for our upcoming 4-day retreat in Spain, by pretty much the same name, the Inside Out, bringing the Inside Out transformation into communities. So the reason we wanted to run this, I'm just saying to them before we opened up, I'm not 100% sure if I'm 100% clear on who this is for and why people would come to it. And that's really what instigated this webinar. We wanted to make it as clear as we possibly can what this upcoming retreat is all about. We want to make sure people know what they're coming for, who it's for, and what you'll learn and what you'll take away from it. So just very briefly, I want to introduce the team. So we've got Dr. Jack Pransky. Now, if you don't know who he is, I don't know where you've been living. He's written many, many books. And this training that we'll be doing in Spain is based on the Modelo book, which I don't know where that came in. If I'm honest, I don't know which one was the first book, Jack. I think it was Somebody Should Have Told Us, probably. No, it wasn't. I know it wasn't. It was a prevention book. But perhaps you'll tell us about that when I get to you. But Modelo it was based on Roger Ville's taking this work, the 3 principles, into communities. And that's what this training is going to be based on. So Jack will speak a little bit to that perhaps when he begins. Then we have Dr. Diane McMillen, who sits in Kansas. Diane, I met out here in Spain a few years ago because Jack had her teach with him out here, and that was a treat for sure. So Diane is retired. She's properly retired, I believe, although she may be semi-retired. Perhaps she'll tell us about that. But she still works in community, and she taught classes on the 3 principles and has been in communities teaching this very much while Jack's inspired to have her alongside him. And then we've got Lilliana, who I also met out here in Spain. She came along to one of Jack's trainings. He was teaching out here since 2012, so I'm not sure which year you came to that one. But Lilliana I met out here, and she's been doing fabulous work. She's co-founder of The Big Simple, a not-for-profit, I believe, in the UK. And she's been doing fabulous work and worked in prisons, I know, alongside with Beyond Recovery. So plenty of experience there, and I'm sure she'll be sharing some stories along the way. And then Janet Rhynie, you did come to Spain. But the first time I met you, you may not remember this, was at my very first 3 Principles conference in the UK. And we came across this back in 2010, I believe, via Mr. Jamie Smart. So we have that in common. And so Janet's co-founded something called Love BIPOC, which I think she may be sharing something about with us today as well, which is, well, I'll let her tell you all about that. So welcome to the team. Welcome everybody here. We're in for a treat, I believe, over the next hour. And I'm going to hand the mic over. Another housekeeping point. We will be opening up for questions a little bit later. We want to sort of set the table, let you know what this is all about. If you want to stay anonymous, the best thing to do is to type your question into the chat box, and I can read those out because this is being recorded and it will go out publicly. And if you're willing to come online and don't mind being recorded, then we'll ask you to raise your hand, your digital hand, and that you will find in the React button at the bottom of your screen. Okay, that's it for housekeeping. I'm handing over to you, Jack.
Thank you. God, it's so nice to see everybody. It's really amazing. It's been a long time for a few people, and then there are new people who I always love to meet. So anyway, this whole thing came about because Kimberly Moriarty who was in the UK and is now in New Zealand, so she's probably sleeping right now, she said to me, I want to do, she's a Maori person from New Zealand. She said, I want to be able to work in the Maori community in New Zealand, but I don't know how to go about it. And so we were kicking that around, and the whole idea kind of materialized about, well, maybe it's time to do a training in inside out community work. And that she would come and, be part of it. And we would let a lot of other people show up if they want to. So, and we were originally going to do it in Italy in a place in my bucket list, but then she moved to New Zealand, and that became impossible to do. And so we thought, well, who could do it? And obviously Sheila's name came up. And so then it all kind of just rolled along, and here we are. I originally asked Gabriela Maldonado Montano to run this with me, and she couldn't do it. So then I thought, who can I do it with? And immediately Diane McMillen's name came into my mind, and Lilliana's name came into my mind. And we started talking together, and everybody got excited. And then we thought, there's something missing. And Janet materialized. And that was the missing link for us. And so I'm really excited about doing this training now. I really thought that I was retired. I really did. I wasn't playing, but I've been running these perfecting deep listening retreats that have been going really beautifully. And so this will be different, but I really see the importance of this for the three principles world and for the world in general. When I first got into this, I came in through Roger Mills. I came in through community work. I came in through prevention. And there were a lot of people around from diverse backgrounds. And over the years, we have noticed that has been dwindling. And people working in communities has been dwindling. There's a lot of coaching going on, a lot of working with businesses, a lot of working with organizations. But when it comes to working in communities, particularly communities in need, that has dwindled. And it's kind of hurt me, really. It's kind of hurt that it has dwindled. And I thought, when I was talking to Kimberly, I realized I really want to do my part to try to rekindle this whole notion about why is it that working with communities from the inside out is even more powerful than working with communities from the outside in, which is how I got trained originally. And I was fortunate enough to be able to write the book Modelo. And when I did, and it took me a long time to write it. When I did, people started noticing the possibilities for what could happen in communities. And Diane is a case in point. So Diane was trained like I was in prevention. She was trained in social work. I was trained in community organizing. And Diane was this it's almost radical social change kind of person, which I was really attracted to, that social change kind of person. And she thought originally, when I was talking to her about Modelo, that this is just kind of crazy. It's really backwards. And then she got into the book so much, and got her students involved with it so much that she started knowing more about Modelo than I did. So actually, I'm going to turn it right over to you, Diane, and just kind of pass the torch. And
Okay. All right. Uh, I was just getting into your story though. But it is marvelous to see so many of you. I know some faces, and I'm super excited about seeing those and very excited to meet more people. Well, I'm going to follow the thread that Jack's laying out because I think it is important. Um, I was resistant to the idea that it was inside a person, and it was because of a pretty radical approach towards social work. Like I really thought the systems were a mess. I really thought it was just a reticular maze of red tape and obstacles and just I in my beginning practice as a I was a protective service worker, so I investigated child abuse and child neglect and took kids out of homes. And the idea that we would blame them, that we would look at the circumstances that people were living in such marginalized, everything, their whole lives were marginalized, their housing, their way the school systems treated them, the way the mental health system treated them when they needed things. It was everything, just seemed like such, obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. And the idea that that person themselves could change all that, it took me a minute. It took me a hot minute. But then when you actually like listen to the words of the people that experienced Modelo and what happened to them and the changes that they went through, I mean, I without even knowing what I was doing. I was teaching a class called prevention, but it was an outside in prevention at this little university. And I talked to Jack about his prevention textbook. He had one little chapter in there about the three principles, and he was first getting oriented toward it. And he sent me the book, and I asked, okay, well, send me 4 copies, and I will let students read the book with me. I'll choose some students. We'll read your book. Everybody else will read Elizabeth Shore's book. Well, in that semester of my students and I reading that book together, I mean, it was really my students. Like I had an older non-traditional student who had a young daughter who was 8 years old and just driving her out of her mind. And she just didn't think that she was even going to be able to raise her. And then all of a sudden, like they're working on this great relationship. She totally attributes it to reading the book. I had people that were working in residential settings for kids that had behavioral disorders, as they like to call them. And they all of a sudden, instead of hating their job, were developing these wonderful relationships with the kids. I mean, their lives were changing in front of my eyes as I was reading the book with them. And it got my attention because I really was looking for an answer. I was looking for how do we make it possible for people who haven't had the same breaks in life to get those breaks. And so I spent a couple of years mulling around using a book I didn't really know what I was doing out of and trying to figure it out. And then I went on a sabbatical in '04 and I traveled around and visited places across the United States. And of course, I got to meet Sid and hang out with Sid and got to meet Roger because I was using Modelo. So I was always interested in the community approach and the idea that we can do things in community. We can touch people in such a way that after we do, all we really have to do is get out of their way because they're going to make the changes in their lives that are going to make a difference in their communities. And I saw it all the time. So I came back from that sabbatical. I did it in the fall of '04. And I was just telling my team, I started looking this stuff up now that we're going to do this. And the first time I did a public presentation was in February of '05. Like I was a month back from my sabbatical and I already was audition setting up that I thought I could get on a public stage and tell people about it and encourage people to do things. And and guess what? Like it kind of worked out that way. I mean, the people got intrigued. I just started offering things in the community. I just started being willing to go to the regional prevention center and do a presentation with their staff. And so my whole approach to three principles, the 20 some years that I worked in the field, because I have pretty fully retired, my whole approach has always been in the juvenile justice system, in the correctional facilities, in public housing, working with people, the parents as teachers. I did work with agencies that had residential clients. And so I just, from not feeling like I even knew enough to string a sentence together, I was able, with the support of this community, the people that were all working in the community, to do this and encourage students to do this. And I mean, I could talk a very long time, and I know there's a lot of other people to talk, but that, just to say that I have confidence that we could make a difference. And the why right now for me is just critical, because we're living in a time that people are feeling very dispirited. I mean, I'm speaking as someone who's living in the United States right now, so there's a myriad of things about that I could talk about also. But the fact is that folks are wondering what they can do. Like, it seems more critical now than ever, individually and collectively, that we support the kind of changes that people have in them to make in the community. So there's a little bit of an introduction, and I'll stop and wait for questions, and then I'll say more.
Okay, Lily, can you say something about it?
Sure. So it's a great pleasure to be here. And you invited me, Jack, and I'm very grateful. I have a lot of respect and love for you, and for especially, where you come from is so pure. So I'm really grateful to be here with you and Diane and Janet. So I have different journey. Each one of us does, really, in the community with the 3Ps. So it's nice that we can bring different experiences. And came across the principles maybe 14 years ago, and or 15. And but 23 years ago, I was in a prison. As I was invited to an opening of a room. It was going to be a special space for young men to explore their creativity. I wasn't into the principles. I hadn't come across, I didn't know anything, but I was there because this was in memory of my stepson, who took his own life on that wing. And he had mental health issues, and he had addiction problems with addictions. And it was just a few days. He had been there for a few days, but it was too much for him, so he took his own life. So together with his grandmother and his sister, we made this room happen, and I raised money and ran marathons and did all sorts to be able to raise enough to open a center. And then when I went, there was like this group of men, young men, singing and kind of playing music, doing poetry. And I thought, wow, there's so much. I could really touch and sense their well-being and their creativity and their spark. But I didn't quite appreciate what that was. And I thought, but I felt it. And I remember thinking, I would really love to do more for them, but who am I? I don't know anything. I don't have a background in community work or psychology. So I kind of left it there. Then forward, I think that was 15 years from then, I found myself again in a similar room with a similar group of people in a different prison. But this time I was there with such clarity in what I could offer and how I could make a difference. This time I thought, okay, I got over myself somehow. And I was there sharing a very simple message of hope. And I was anxious, but my insecure thinking wasn't enough this time, because I knew I had insights about my well-being, my wholeness, and I knew that was true for them too. So I could talk about that, and I could talk about how the mind works. That was on my first program with Beyond Recovery, and then I went on to do 4.5 years in prisons. in UK, and then I came out because of COVID, and I continued on in another organization doing throughout. I've never actually stopped. For 12 years, I've continued to deliver, doing my best, getting over myself. And believe me, sometimes I think I still don't know anything, but and I don't know if I could have made a difference to my stepson. I will never know. Sometimes the people close to us are the most difficult to reach, but I know that I have made a difference to many people since. And I guess I love what I do. I feel blessed, and I feel that this stuff should be available, should not be just for the few who can afford it. And, you know, it's so expensive to train, you know. I had to have a second job to pay for my first training, you know. I had to keep working, and it took me ages to pay for a training. That never made sense to me. This stuff should be out there. So I continued on, and I did my best. I still do my best. I still learn every time. Every time I do a program, it's like it's the first time. I have butterflies, but the truth in this is so powerful. It sustains me, you know. It carries me. It holds my hand. It makes me get through the door and sit down with a group of people who have never heard this. And they think they have rigid ideas, fixed ideas of what's possible for them, who they are, and how life is gonna pan out for them. So it always feels fresh, and I met amazing people along the way. I have a social enterprise called The Big Simple, where after working with organizations, I got together with my beautiful friends, and now they're colleagues, and we have this way of working which is unique to us, which is our own pace, our own way, our own, you know, and it's very there's a lot of co-production in what we do, you know, and I know that each one of us can do it our own individual way. So I guess my contribution, apart from having thousands of hours under my belt in the room, I want to really share what I see to be true about the fact that we can all do this if we want to. We can find a way to do it and make a difference if we want to. So I will be there sharing this for you and whoever comes. So that's me
Great.
for now. And
Thank you. And Janet, can you say something about how you got involved in the whole business here?
Yeah. First and foremost, thank you, Jack, for inviting and including me in this event. I really appreciate it. For everybody for everybody or anybody who doesn't know me, my name's Janet Rhynie. I've been around the principles since 2010. As Sheila said, I've known her since 2010. I met her first at 2010 and then went to Spain. But what first moved me about the principles was going to the first 3 principles event in London, in Tikkun, in 2010. And I saw Amy Chen Mills introduce a video of her father's work of Modelo. And as I'm watching this video, what comes to me is this will change the world. Because it wasn't something that was taught or people had to learn something new. It was from within a person. Everybody had the wisdom within them. And that just seems so revolutionary to me, that there's nothing to teach, it's to draw out of. And the next thing that came to me was, I'm going to spend the rest of my life learning about this so that I can share it with others. And I suppose very early on in my journey, I met Jack because of Modelo. And at the time, Jack was the only person who had been speaking about community work. Don't get me wrong, when I trained with Aaron Turner and Mara and talking about business, but my heart has always been in community. Always wanted to do a Modelo project, but I suppose it's come about in different ways. So my background was within criminal justice. So very early on, about 3 months after I started learning about the principles, I managed to be included in a contract to work with female offenders. My background is as a probation officer. And I was able to work with female offenders. And initially, pre-principles, it was, oh, I'll do a bit of EFT, I'll do a bit of NLP, I'll do a bit of everything, just a smorgasbord of everything and do that. During the first session, I sat in the car park of that first session. It's like, I have no idea what I'm going to do, because everything that made sense before no longer makes any sense. All I've got now is the principles. And when I'm saying the principles, all I really knew was thought. And it was 7 weeks of talking about thought. But it was the best 7 weeks. Like, when we finished the program and we had a celebratory meal, the commissioner said, Janet, how many people started? I said, I think it was 8. I think 8. He says, how many people finished? I went, 8. They said, 100% compliance. We've never had that in a group. And I know it's because of the principles, 100%. And what I've found is that working with communities, working with people on the fringes, working with people who other people may disregard, forget. I find that working with people in these situations understand and see and live the principles more than people in corporate, because they have very little else but mind. They have very little else but to trust what is at the heart, what Sydney Banks was pointing towards. So as my time has gone on, I still work within criminal justice. I've delivered groups within criminal justice for female offenders. I've worked one-to-one with male offenders. But outside of that as well, because the principles were so fresh and new and revolutionary for me, I started holding community groups in coffee shops. Just invite people, oh, we're going to be holding this session, come along, listen here. And at that time, I knew quite a few people who were in recovery. And so they bring people that they knew to the coffee shop, and the owner was just so amazing. He said, yeah, just, you can have the space as long as somebody buys a coffee. And it was amazing to me. That it was just, I say, easy and effortless, because my heart was to share this. And I say was because there was COVID, there was lockdown. And then also George Floyd happened. And the experience for myself was quite, it hurt. It was really painful to watch what had happened to that man, but also the lack of understanding I found in some groups in the Three Principles community. When a person can turn around and say to you, oh, why is that bothering you? It's just a thought. I'm like, wow, where is the love and the compassion at this place? At that time, Leela Turner and Christine Heath started listening groups for Black and Indigenous people of colour within the Principles community, just to hear their experience. And what surprised me was there were so many people of colour around the world, some who knew Sid and I'd never seen them. And it hurt me so much, because I'm like, is this a blind spot within the Principles community and nobody's speaking about it? And so, having took some time away for myself, I then came back in, and it's just like, in order for things to change, I want to be part of the change. And so there's myself and my friend, my colleague who was a colleague and is now a friend, Danielle Desiree, she's on this call as well. There's 5 of us who worked together consistently to provide a platform for Black and Indigenous people of colours, so that people looking in this direction I know we are, and this is me, spiritual beings having a human experience. However, sometimes you want to see somebody that looks like us to know that it's for us. I know there were people of colour who came to me and said, Janet, if we hadn't seen you, we wouldn't have thought that this was for us. And so this is why we have the platform to complement the 3PGC site, so that people don't have to scroll to try and find somebody that looks like them, to realize that this understanding is for everybody. And so that's why I'm here. It's an opportunity to share. It's an opportunity to share the experiences that I've had within communities, but also for people who may be looking in this direction and questioning whether it's for them, that they can see it is for everybody. And they can share it wherever they are, with whoever they see and whoever they meet. I was just wondering, I know my friend Danielle's here. I don't know if Danielle wants to say anything, add anything.
Sure. Hello, everybody. So a little bit about me, quickly. So I came into this understanding in 2022, and it was by way of Rob Cook, because we used to be in the Air Force together. So I came to him initially for coaching, for help with remnants of issues I was having from previous sexual assault. And when he introduced me to the community, and he told me there was a community that he wanted me to see it, and if I would be willing to come to a webinar, I was shocked at first, and it alarmed me. I must admit, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and growing up with the conditioning that I grew up with in the South, there's a level of uncomfortableness when you step into certain environments and don't see yourself represented, especially in Georgia. So I didn't know what to think at first. And I told him that, but he assured me. He was like, no, it's not like that. And he was like, I'm in the community and you'll meet other people that look like you. You might not see it immediately looking at the website, but they're there, it's there. So one thing that he did was give me Modelo. So next to Cindy Banks' Second Chance, Modelo was the next book I read. And I was in shock. You know, I remember I immediately finished the book and went to him and was like, who is Roger Mills? I have to meet Roger Mills. Like, who is this? And unfortunately, he told me that he had passed away. And he was like, you're not going to be able to meet him, but you can meet his daughter, though. And interestingly enough, I just thought that that work was still going on. I was like, well, yeah, I want to be a part of this. This is amazing. And when I went along into the community, I found out that that really wasn't, going on anymore. And I met Miss Beverly Wilson Hayes. She talked about some of the things that she did previously years ago too. And it was like more community work. And I was like, okay, well, why isn't anybody doing this anymore? Not that I didn't appreciate the coaching and the programs and learning about grounding and so much, because it's helped me so much in my life. So much so that I know I want to do this for the rest of my life. And it's interesting because Janet was talking about the way in the beginning for her was thought, thought, thought. For me, it was feeling, feeling, feeling. And my first course that I got exposed to that was through Rohini Ross and Angus Ross, through their rewilding program. And I wasn't used to letting myself feel. So I just knew it was different and I was feeling something and I didn't understand what I was feeling because I was always used to being caught up in my thoughts, having ADHD. So after that, I still was at a loss to, okay, why aren't we doing anything with community? Um, I was blessed to meet Janet and I got a chance to go to a Love BIPOC meeting and found out that was something that was created after George Floyd. And it just grew from there. And we just started talking and saying that we wanted to do things and more community work. one of the things that I love about this community is that I feel very connected to everyone, everything. Um, and I didn't feel that way before. It was a point where some of the things and concerns I had before I wasn't having any longer. But when I would try to introduce other people of color to the community or to the principals, I was able to see how I was, because then they were alarmed and they were like, well, I don't see any diversity, and why should I be a part of this? And you're telling me, Danielle, that we're all one and we're all connected, but that's not what I'm seeing visually. And I had to think about it. And I said, okay, instead of wondering why I'm not seeing a lot of community and why I'm not seeing certain things, maybe we can be the change, and maybe we can start working on doing things in the community. And that just became very important to me. Um, I love the work that we're doing. I want to continue to do the work that we're doing. Um, I'd love to, in the future, see a lot more diversity, because the world is diverse. And if we're bringing this to the world to help the world, well, yeah, the world is diverse. So um, that's all I wanted to share. And I'm grateful to be here. So thank you.
Thank you, Danielle. And it's great to actually see who you are, since we just communicated. um, I hope that you got a sense of who these people are. And I want to remind everybody that when Sid Banks had his experience initially, he decided that he was going to be of service to humanity. That was his intention. And while there is service going on, to me, there is no greater service than to go into a community and make change happen, and have people's lives who wouldn't get the opportunity to do it otherwise, who aren't the people who go into coaching, who aren't the people who are part of businesses. For people to have the opportunity to be touched in such a way that their lives change for the better. And that is really the whole point of doing this training retreat in Spain, is we want to inspire this kind of work in more places. We want to inspire more people to be able to do it. And I realized somewhere along the way, I won't go into the story now because we don't have time, but I realized that there was a system for how community work from the inside out can best happen. And I had to go through Modelo and look for the system in order to find it. It was there all along. And what we are going to be doing is, at this retreat, is going through what the system is. And the system is no secret. It's in the back of, I think it's in the appendix of Hope for All. I stuck it in there. But just, it's almost like just looking at the system is the same as people saying mind, consciousness, and thought. It's like you can say the words, but to have an experience of what that really means is what makes the whole difference. And so we're going to take apart every part of the system and help people be comfortable about going into communities and doing this kind of work and coming out the other side and having it spread that way. Coaching is great. I do it myself. Working with businesses is great. I have done it myself. But there's something about going into communities, starting from scratch, or connecting up with some other organization, helping them see the possibilities for themselves, that changes everything and makes all the work that we do come more alive. At the beginning, the work was alive with this kind of community work, and it was extremely inspiring. And somehow it is just, it's not that there aren't community things happening. There are people doing community work with the three principles scattered around the world, but there isn't enough of it. The percentage is extremely small. And the idea is, how can we help this percentage be at least back to where it used to be in the beginning, if not more so? Should we open it up for questions now?
Oh, that's beautiful, Jack. And Diane and Lily and Janet and Danielle, thank you so much for sharing. I have one question. Please raise your hands if you want to ask questions, or type something in the chat box. My question, Jack, is who is this for? If somebody's sitting there thinking, yeah, I'm not sure if this is for me. Am I the kind of person that would go on this type of training? Am I the sort of person that could walk in, get into community? How do I know whether this is for me?
Well, how would we know unless we don't, if we don't have the experience? So the idea is to help people have the experience, at least in knowing how to go about it. Because when we don't know how to go about it, it's completely foreign territory. I don't blame anybody for not wanting to step into a community, not knowing how to go about it. And so that's the whole point. It's for anybody who has been inspired to touch people's lives. And here is a way to do it that can have more impact than what we're doing one-on-one with people. A lot more impact. And it's so exciting. I see Wendy's hand up. Wendy?
Hello, Dr. Pransky. Very nice to see you. I just wanted to ask you, basically you just answered it in the last 27 seconds in a way. How are we defining community in terms of people who are, I don't even know, less than, behind bars, on public assistance, living on the edge, or is a community just, like you just basically said, a group of people that, we might talk to a group of people and have lights turn on because of the synergy of them talking to one another and realizing the differences could make. So can a community be the local Girl Scout troop? I'm being facetious, but not.
Absolutely. A community is any group of people. And when there is a group of people who might not have the opportunities that other groups of people do, and we can go in there, we're not talking about only going in there, but when we can go in there, that's what that's where the real juice for me is.
Yeah.
So
okay, thank you.
And if anybody, Diane or Lily or Janet, want to jump in on that?
Because I would also say, given I've retired from the university, but I still do things, like right now I'm working with a little kids in a Montessori school that's on the the east side of town. Like it's a marginalized school. Every 90% of the kids free and reduced lunches and that sort of thing. So the special needs. The group of women and one fellow that work with these kids, we've struggled over time with kids that are more demanding. And at times the decision has been made that we don't want those kids in the garden group. Well, that isn't what's happening now, because I feel like the conversations that I have just in working with my group to work with the kids, like how are we going to see these kids, like how are we going to react to these kids, has changed the tenor. I mean, we're not just, you know, master gardeners now, like we see the children as the future. And so here's a little very unexpected group that I've been like coaching, as it were, in how kids make decisions and how thought works and how our emotions get, and it's changed how the group is interacting with this little, and that I call that a community. Like we've got a little community of 5 and 6 year olds now who are treating each other differently, and the teachers are noticing it. And so I just think that's another little prairie spark, that's an example of the world we're living in, because you know there's just so much angst among people right now. Maybe it was COVID, maybe in our country it's the president, you know, like who knows, but there's such a lack of engagement with each other, and probably COVID is a big part of that. People got afraid of each other, and we're still seeing that. And I mean, I think if you know, if you've got a library committee you're on, you can turn that into a culture of change, and those voices that don't get heard that Janet and Danielle are talking about, like you bring those voices out, and we do it everywhere we go.
Janet, go ahead.
Because I can't find the hand raised on Zoom, so I'm just raising my hand. For me, community for me is, I suppose, providing a service to people who wouldn't ordinarily get access to this. So I do work corporately as well. So, you know, people will buy in training for their organizations when we're looking at performance or there's illness or something like that. Whereas working in probation for the end user, for the offenders, working or doing something in a community so that people can come and it's low or free. That's what I'd see as community work. It's not, I'm not being brought in as a coach or a problem solver. I am here in the community providing a service to anybody who wants to come and hear. If they then want to take that further and work with me further, that's something else. But initially, it's providing a space, providing a place for anybody to come, to listen, to hear. That's what I deem to be community work.
Great. I see Marina has a question.
Good evening, everybody. I'm just enjoying each word of this conversation. So I know it's meant for me. The question is, what is the financial of this project? Yeah. What is the cost and what to prepare? Because I have worked myself into complete economic devastation, yeah, with a community doing good human rights project, yeah. So I will need to raise a fundraiser to come, but I would really want to do it because all work which came through 3 principles into my world, it turned it completely upside down. And I understand that I have exhausted myself just because I didn't understand the principles well enough when I started. So I'm born problem solver. So I was solving it through my personal energy. But I definitely need a technique, and the project is that huge and that neglected that it's worse than all known marginalized community, because it's nowhere not even recognized as people who need help. So that's where I am. So the question is, yes, what are the costs and how we can figure it out? Yeah, if there are any possibilities. Well, we will see what magic will do, but I would really love to join.
Do you want to say something about that, Sheila?
Yeah, I know Marina very well, so Marina and I can have a conversation about that for sure. For sure. Yeah. I wanted to read out. Thank you, Marina, for that. We'll definitely talk about that.
Thank
So
you so much.
there's a question in the comments that I want to read out. So yeah, anonymously. So she wants to bring this into the foster care community, who are not in one physical place. Will this help, or is anybody already working in that area? Is the question.
Well, I personally don't know of people working with the foster care community. Maybe some other people do. But what a great idea that is. And yes, this is pertinent for working with a group like that. Absolutely. Lily.
Yeah, the Big Simple, our social enterprise, actually was created with that in mind. So it was to do with, I mean, we wanted to support the carers, the foster parents and the children, but mainly the carers around who is taking care of these kids. And also caregivers. That's how it was created. Then we learned, and that was a great lesson. I mean, we really pursued many different, ways and avenues for this. And then other things were coming at us, that didn't really have a huge, a lot to do with foster care or caregivers. And we kept thinking, no, we want to work with caregivers. No, we want to work with caregivers. And then at some point, we realized that we had to follow what was coming to us naturally, and what people wanted, and who was asking, and it was all community work. So I can't answer. Yes, there is a huge, potential to help. But my lesson, which is a kind of a side point, but it was to maintain ourselves open to what else was coming that needed our attention and help and time and energy. And so that's a little bit I can tell you. But we were at least a year, we were focusing almost entirely on that, and it wasn't happening. And we didn't know why. And we were still passionate, but it wasn't happening. So I know it's a side point. I'm sure there's a lot that can be done, but it's worth being open as well to whatever else comes.
Janet, did you have an answer to that?
It was just a quick one, really, in as much as I think it's great, yes, if you want to work in foster care, but also there are so many different levels and so many different aspects of that. There may be an aspect of foster care that you're thinking about that somebody else isn't thinking about. So whatever is on your heart, what I would say is follow that through. Just say, follow your intuition, follow your wisdom. And if there are other people in that field doing that, you'll meet with them. You'll meet with them.
I want to get at least the two people who have their hands up. So Leanne first, and then Ellen.
Great. Thank you so much, Sheila, Jack, Diane, Lilliana, Janet, Danielle. Thank you for all the beautiful souls here too, for sharing and for organizing this. So needed. I'm doing a little bit of a personal experiment, because isn't life just one big experiment? In my town, geographically, right? It's a pretty large town, trying to work with the community of parents. And over the past year, running a bunch of different workshops based on the principles and on Jack's book, Parenting from the Heart, I have found that I'm getting more attendance and more interaction when I move my sessions to online, probably because the world is busy and people have childcare issues and whatnot. And simultaneously, I'm working with a colleague, Dana Bartone, and we're developing a women's group that's a little bit more geographically expanded. And we've decided that it's going to be an in-person only community, meaning all of our events will be in person. So I'm wondering if any of you can speak to how your experiences have been sharing the three principles work to create community, both online, here we are, and in person. And in the challenges of that, I believe both of them have pros and cons. But when I think about the real, like, getting that feeling, well, I guess I can't, I was going to say it has to be in person, but I get that feeling when I'm with this group and seeing so many lovely faces here too. So if anyone could speak to the online versus the in-person, or the combination thereof, and how it affected your teachings and community development, I would love to hear that.
Well, let me just say something really quick about it.
Yeah.
Everybody has what they think are their needs and wants, whatever they believe them to be. That's what is going to be where to start with them, whatever they think their needs and wants are. And that can be, so we've got to do a little searching. Some people call it intake, about what people really want. And then we can deliver what they want. And at the same time that we're delivering what they want, we can have our focus be what we know will help them most. Seeing the world from the inside out and all that stuff. So that's all I want to say about it. And I don't know whether Janet or Lily or Diane have anything else they want to add.
Thank you.
Or maybe quickly, because we had to move all in person. We had to move it online. And then we were like, oh my goodness, what's going to happen to the feeling and the connection? And I love in person. There's a whole totally kind of different thing that happens in person, and it's beautiful. But I'm telling you what I witnessed and felt on 3 years of online, or 4 years, not more, because we started during the pandemic. You know, we were like, oh my God, how are we going to do it? And it's been magical. It's been absolutely like I would come off, you know, a call, and I would be like speechless and completely touched and moved by what I had witnessed at a feeling level. So don't let this kind of play on your mind, because the most important ingredient is present. And what is, you know, and it goes beyond form. The screen, the body of someone next to you, it goes beyond. So it's like, be open, and if you really want to serve, you can serve equally impactfully in both ways. So and celebrate. We were so grateful. We were like, oh my God, I can't believe we can do it online. And I'm sure many people can agree with that, because suddenly there was this way of reaching more people and having big, large communities of people. People couldn't make it in person. Imagine people who are isolated and shut away behind doors because they were scared to go out. Suddenly they had a window of hope and light in their own homes. So this is what I want to add.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
I run online mentoring groups, and that's all we do is online, and the feeling is beautiful. So I don't know where the time went, but I'm willing
Could we just let Ellen ask a question?
to say, I want
Sorry.
Ellen a chance to get her thing in, and I'll stick around for a little while. Go ahead, Ellen.
Thank you. I'll make it brief. I want everyone to know something that wasn't really shared here, that I have the the benefit of knowing, because this I loved everything that was shared, and it would be very easy to listen to this, watch this, or be here and think that this is focused on, as you identified, marginalized communities, Jack. And I'm sitting here thinking of all the communities I'm connected with
that may not be socioeconomically marginalized, but they're very marginalized because they don't have this information. And that feels really big for me. So I don't want to minimize the value of all the different environments that this has been introduced in, all that you've all worked in. But I'm working with healthcare providers who are very marginalized because they don't have this information and are leaving because of it. So leaving healthcare. So I just wanted to put that in because I thought it was valuable.
Well, that's a great point, Ellen. It's a great point. We're not meaning to leave anybody out. Everybody's included. All communities are included. We just want to make sure that the people who have the least opportunity get that opportunity as much as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we are over time. What do you want to do, Sheila?
I'm open to staying for a few more minutes. I want to say to Ellen, thank you so much for sharing that point. I think that's a very, very important point because, yeah, there's community everywhere. And I love what you shared about that, you know, maybe not socioeconomically marginalized, but marginalized because they don't know where their well-being is. And I think it is super, super important because there's a lot of people that get burnt out. A lot of people around the world that get burnt out because they don't have an inside-out understanding. So thank you, Ellen, for bringing that point forward. I have placed in our chat box a link to our retreat, and I'll send that out tomorrow as well. The recording will be available. I'm sorry if people got mixed up with the time. Leanne, somebody is asking where they could connect with you about the work that you're doing with the parent group. She would appreciate connecting with you. If you could type that into the chat box now, that would be amazing, just before we finish. And if not, send it to me and I'll send it on. And I don't know, Jack, do you want to take Marina's question? She's got a hand up again, or?
Tell you what, we'll take Marina's question, and then I want to give the opportunity to Janet, Lily, and Diane to say any last thing that they have to say.
Sure. Oh, and just one little thing to mention, and I think it's a big thing and a wonderful thing, is that I don't know, you probably haven't seen the chat box, some people, but Amy Chen Mills is sitting on this call right now because she's with Sue Coltman in the UK because she's running a program there tomorrow with her, and she's been chiming in the chat box, and I just thought, wow, isn't that something? You know, this is Roger Mills's daughter. Roger Mills is who took this into Modelo, so how wonderful, and she's been saying hi to people on the call. So, hey, Amy. Lovely to have your presence here on this call. Thank you.
So Marina will take you for the last question, and then we'll close out with last remarks.
Thank you so much, Jack. I'm so inspired by this vision and what you do. And I know so many NGOs who really need this, but they don't know about 3 principles. Will this retreat be available online? I know some retreats are recorded today in 3 principles, or it will be kind of personal experience. And if there are any possibility, let's say, to connect people to you, Jack, or how it can go if, let's say, other international NGOs will be interested in taking on board 3 principles with community work.
Well, we are not going to put this online, this retreat. But where there's a will, there's a way. So maybe there's a way to figure out what you're talking about, and we'll put our heads on it and see what will happen.
Fantastic. Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Okay.
True magic.
Let's go backwards. Janet, do you have anything to last remarks?
Yeah, just to say, I am so grateful that this training is happening. It's, I'd say it's long overdue that there is a focus back on community work. So thank you. And I'm grateful to be part of it.
And I'm grateful to have you. You and your group. Lily.
Yeah, I love being here for an hour, and so I'm really excited about the rest that's coming. And I felt you all, and if you're here, it's because you have an interest, a little spark. You know, that is beautiful. Follow, listen to that, and follow that wherever it takes you. You know, you don't know, but that's the most important thing: is the desire and the love for, you know, contributing and sharing, and also that we are enough with a little bit of understanding of the mind and that spark. We are enough, we are equipped, we can do it.
Diane.
Well, that was beautiful, Lily. And it was, I mean, so what I wanted to say also, like, I can't even describe the joy I feel right now. Because I had sort of faded away when 3PCG went so corporate, because that just wasn't what I was as interested in. And but the work has gone on, like the little sparks that I have ignited here in Kansas are still rolling out and doing their things. And so many of the comments just resonated with me about, you don't really know what your community is. The dear person that was talking about foster kids was one of my areas of personal interest. I did protective service. Kids ended up in the foster care system because of my work to remove them from homes where there was violence. And, you know, when I started first wanting to work with the kids, what really happened was I realized that the staff that were working in this residential facility needed 3 principals. Like, this was a marginalized, even more so in some ways than the young people that were in there. And so we, you know, you shift around what your focus is, or you offer both. And it's just what Lily's saying is true. Like, if someone had told me 25 years ago, like, you're going to do this, I'd be just like, yeah, as soon as pigs fly. Like, I just wouldn't have thought I had it in me. But it did happen. And if it happens for me, like, it can happen for any of us, because we all, once you see it, like, once you, as Sid used to say, see it, you know, it's just, everything changes. And so I hope that we see lots of you when we're there in October. It's really going to be somewhat magical. And like, I don't know what's going to come out of this. Like, who knows? Like, we may finally have a wing of the organization that is really community based, and we're all there supporting each other and coming up with ideas and helping people in and out of tight spots and laughing and celebrating, whether we're in the UK or Spain or Baldwin City, Kansas. So thanks, everybody. Thanks so much for being here.
Great. And I just want to say in closing that not only do we owe all of this to Sydney Banks, but we also owe all of this emphasis to Roger Mills.
Roger, yeah.
Him, we would not even be talking.
Yeah. And I mean, if you ever got a chance to meet him, I mean, when I was in California, like, I was driving around in a tiny little rented car because that was all available, with Roger Mills next to me, like, going to all these places in California that he was part of. And honestly, I just really thought I died and gone to heaven. And I didn't really expect that. So anyway, enough.
Well, I thank you, Roger, wherever you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for coming, and I hope to see a lot of you at the training. And, you know, if you'd really like to go to the training, but finances are a problem, talk to Sheila. Talk to us, okay? Because we don't want anybody to feel left out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, again. Bye.
All right.
Thank
Bye-bye. Have a
you.
Thank
wonderful rest
you.
of the week.
Lily,
Bye-bye. See you soon.
thank you, Sheila. Bye.
Thank you.